He's just working a little bit differently. I know things are still happening in the village, Greg, and you're on top of it. Can you kind of give us a rundown? What have you been up to? How's things been going since this pandemic started?
Things have been definitely different. Working from home a lot more, but I'm still responding to phone calls, emails. We're still accepting permit applications from homeowners and essential businesses. Um, we have a couple of projects that are ongoing that are essential, um, like the fire department up on Oswego and Smoky Hollow Road. That is something that's allowed to continue construction. Um, for the most part, I mean, I've got my office phone transferred to my cell phone. I get emails on my cell phone. I've got my computer logged in at home to my work computer, and pretty much every day I've been pretty busy actually doing plan review or answering questions about a lot of different can I still do a shed? Can I put up a fence? I've done deck permits. Had a couple calls for sheds, a couple fence permits. So we're still operating. It's just a little different. Some of the inspections that I'm usually doing this time of year, I'm not doing either because mostly because of the COVID, but a lot of businesses are closed, and there's really not a real need to do some of these inspections
What
until everything's back open.
can you give us an example? What kind of inspections are you talking about when you said
Well,
you go out and do them?
sure, the state requires that the code enforcement office does commercial property inspections and multifamily property inspections. Some commercial entities like churches and schools or larger restaurants are required to be done every year. Smaller office buildings, smaller restaurants, multifamily are required to be done every 3 years. So on
Okay.
an ongoing basis, we inspect those throughout the year. Right now, those are on hold because they're just, I guess, the risk to the public outweighs, the necessity of those inspections. Now, if someone calls me and there's a situation that is either a health or life safety need with an apartment or a building, then I will definitely be doing those inspections, wearing the proper protective equipment, social distancing obviously in mind. But there's no lack of service other than, we'll be a lot busier doing those inspections later on in the year.
Try and catch up. And you had mentioned essential work being done, and obviously, when we think of the fire company, that's essential. Most people in our village are aware that O'Reilly's, they were able to continue working in the beginning, but that you had mentioned that work had stopped because it's not deemed essential. The projects that homeowners are doing, is it because they're doing it themselves, or it's a one man company? Like what I know when you said people are asking for permits, you're saying if it's something that can be done now or something that can wait. What's the difference?
Well, some of those projects, people are trying to get their ducks in a row so that when this outbreak or this social distancing goes away, they're able to just start running with their project. But a lot of these are homeowners that want to do something themselves. They either want to build a shed or build a deck or put up a fence. The ones that are contractors, it would have to be a single person working on the site. And of course, if it's working on someone's home, they need to make sure that they're practicing that social distancing from the homeowner as well.
Right.
That's kind of hard to enforce, but you can usually tell if there's more than one person working on a project, or the size of the project may tell that this needs more than one individual. A couple of the projects that we have that are essential, we've had some damaged homes and families are displaced, so
Right.
those permits are allowed to be ongoing. But those workers still have to practice that, you know, social distancing. They need to wear their masks. They need to be clean throughout the day. Um, and some of those projects have slowed down, but they're still ongoing.
Yeah, and that makes sense because obviously people need a home, they need a place to go to. So I am glad to hear that that would be, essential. Um,
Absolutely.
so what are some of the other, are you getting any calls or any complaints or anything that you're being asked to do that's a little bit different because of the COVID-19?
Not at this time. Most businesses have just complied with the executive orders. They understand the harm they could cause to not only their associates and themselves, but to the public at large, which would not be good for anyone's business. A lot of businesses, like the restaurants, they're doing as much takeout or delivery as they can. So they've had to adjust some of their work. Thankfully, people are still supporting those businesses through this time. I know Atlantic Seafood, you see the line outside now instead of inside.
Yeah.
So you see different ways that people are adjusting to this new normal that we're living in. So we really haven't had any complaints to my office about any of this. Now, maybe people don't understand that they can call the code enforcement office, but they can. They can call the code enforcement office or our police department if they feel that there's a danger to the public because of an operation. I've been receiving calls for yard waste in the road because people are busy cleaning up their yards right now instead of working every day. I've been getting calls about properties that may have trash on them because people are home, they're looking around more, they're seeing things. So and those have been getting cleaned up, and that's something that's more of a public safety, a health issue, because if you've got trash and debris outside, it can attract animals, and that can cause other issues. So those are things that I am actively enforcing. If someone needs to paint their house, because that could be a code violation if there's peeling paint, that's not something we're going to be aggressively enforcing at this time. But some of those other things that we still need to take care of because it's a public safety or a health concern.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I had done an interview with our mayor, Dick Clark, and he had said that sometimes you were getting a little bit of backlash for enforcing things like that. But he did remind the public too, just like you did, those are safety and public concerns. If you have trash and it brings the animals, kids are outside playing, a little bit more. So we're still trying to keep Baldwinsville beautiful. We're still trying to keep it so that when we can go back outside and enjoy everything in groups, it's how we remember it to be.
Right.
So, and I do understand some people's points where there's bigger things to worry about, but really public safety, public health, all that stuff, it just can't, if you get backed up on that stuff, Greg, then all of a sudden you just have a bigger mess if you don't stay on top of it. Like my teenage son's room, basically.
Absolutely.
So that's good to hear. And hopefully you're not getting too much talk back in that regard, but I'm sure you deal with that whether we're in a pandemic or not.
Honestly, people are taking care of what they need to take care of. Right now, the courts are closed, so we're really not able to bring anyone to court right now, and I haven't had the need to do that, even though the code enforcement office, if we needed to, can summon someone to the court. Generally, people, when you notify them that something's against the code or in violation, most often they take care of it. Is it within a couple of days? Sometimes not. This time of year or with this outbreak, it's a little harder for people to get some things done, whether they need to hire someone or what. But when it comes to like trash and things like that, those companies are open and running, and they can be called, and so those things need to keep happening. You can't just stockpile things like that in the yard. So.
Well, and I think you mentioned it before, and so has the mayor. There's a reason not to put brush in the streets, from what I understand, because the sewer system or something.
Well, it's in some cases we've had so much debris that you couldn't get an emergency vehicle down the street.
Wow.
Because people place them on both sides of the street and out in the road. That's where it becomes a bigger problem. Also, in some neighborhoods, there's no sidewalks, so when people are walking, they've got to walk down the middle of the street because there's so much brush on each side. Our code does not allow for yard waste or any debris like that to be placed in the roadway. It's something that has to be placed either at the edge of the lawn or What the mayor said, if people are concerned about damage to their lawn, it can be placed at the end of their driveway in a pile. The village also has the Park a Truck program. If you're going to have a large amount of yard waste from trimming bushes, trees, whatever, just call the village hall and they will bring a truck and park it at your property, and you can fill it up with your yard waste.
And
that way
that's
we
still
don't
happening
have.
right now? That's still going on?
Absolutely. That's something that we can still do. And another problem with putting yard waste in the road is the storm drains. Anything that you get rain, it washes down into the storm drains. Those storm drains are what protect properties from flooding. And it is a constant maintenance process for the DPW, but it doesn't need to be aggravated by, yard waste being put directly into the street. So.
Okay. And that makes sense. And a lot of times you don't think about it until you hear the reasons as to why
Sure.
those things aren't happening. That's good. Good to know. You said you were issuing permits and stuff. I'm assuming if somebody gets if they had a permit and they were working on something and it's done, are you going to do those inspections? Is that something that can wait? How's that working?
Some of those final inspections can wait, but if it's an ongoing process, I need to go do periodic inspections. So if they're continuing a project, and for example, one of the homes where a tree hit it earlier this year, I have had to go do an inspection, and I'll have to go do another inspection before they can start putting sheetrock up. The county is doing inspections, but the county plumbing department, I should say, they've had to do an inspection on this property, but they need notification from me that it's an essential project, or they're not doing their inspections. So on an ongoing basis, I'm doing the inspections. If I need to, I wear my mask and whatever personal protection I need to wear. Some of the inspections, I'm there by myself, for like the decks and fences. I don't need to be in contact with another individual. So.
Okay. Well, that obviously makes sense if it's something that's outside.
Right.
So is there anything you'd say would be a little bit different or a little bit harder for you to do now, or anything that the public can do in general? If you could reach out to them at this point.
Really, I mean, the public can send me an email. They can call the office number. I'm available. I don't really see there's any lapse in my service at all. So the only thing that may be harder is, a lot of this I'm working from home, and a couple days a week I come to the office, print the permits, send out the mail, and it's really, it may be a couple days lag time from normal. Okay. But that's it.
Yeah, and if that's the worst thing that's going on, I think most people can deal with that or handle that. So
we usually have a pretty quick turnaround for items like fences and things like that, as long as we have, all the paperwork we need. So, I know a lot of municipalities that are larger have a minimum 5 to 7 day turnaround on permits because of their workload. But here in the village, I'm able to give people a little better personal service. So.
Yeah. Well, I know that I see you out a lot in the village doing different inspections of your job. I mean, your presence is felt there. So even now, from what the mayor said, you're still kind of out doing the inspection. Somebody could probably see you and from a safe distance ask you a question as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, Gregg. I know, being that it's 3:00, it's the middle of your workday, and I keep interrupting everybody's workday, but my workday is a little bit different now.
Well, we need to make sure that we are able to communicate with our public in different ways. And, there's so many different ways now that people are communicating with each other, and, Facebook being one of those. So hopefully, people can get some good information out of this and realize that, if there's something that they're looking to do, they can give me a call and we can move forward.
Well, and if the weather's getting nicer, I know a lot of people are feeling kind of cooped up. So to think that they could do a project and have the time to do it. And, the box stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, is Ace in the village still open? Is our village hardware store still open?
Absolutely. Ace is open. They are limiting the amount of customers in the building. They're doing a very good job. All their employees I've seen wearing masks. Um, and of course, I mean, they give you great personal service there because it's a smaller store, but they pretty much have everything you need. And it's nice to be able to go there still during this when you need something to fix, whatever's happening at your house, which continues to happen, I'm sure.
Right, which is why they're so open and why they're deemed essential, because if something breaks and it needs to be fixed.
Right.
What I love about ACE is they usually can 90% of my time answer the question right away or get back to me with an answer. So that personal service is just great. So,
Right.
well, like I said, thank you again for your information. If there's anything else you want to add before we part ways, the information is great for the public to have.
Well, I mean, just to let the public know that they are allowed to get out and walk, and there's plenty of parks still open that they can walk and not feel so cooped up. You can take a drive, obviously, if you need to just get out of the house and clear your head. So there's some things that you can do to not feel so confined to your home, and I hope people are going to take advantage of that. And just obviously, when you're on the trails or walk in the village, just make sure that you give everyone else space. And I think we can all get through this.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And if I was going to be cooped up anywhere, Greg, I'm glad I'm in Baldwinsville. Absolutely love our community. So, and it's pretty and it's walkable, and
Right.
And we have a lot of things like Beaver Lake and stuff that a lot of other places don't have. So
It is nice.
So, all right, well, enjoy the rest of your day, sir. Thank you again.
Thank you, Shelley.
Bye.
Bye-bye.